Today I'm going to answer the two questions that I get most often. Why did I leave my job in the mainstream media? And how was I red-pilled? First off, let me say, I'm blown away by the support I've received. When I started this channel, I assumed my only subscriber would be my mother, who of course would feel obligated to watch. But that hasn't been the case. Turns out there's tons of people like me who are sick of the mainstream media's refusal to offer balanced coverage or try to hold the government to account for stupid policies, financial scandals, and giving preferential treatment to Islam. MSM in Canada is essentially now just cheerleaders for the government. It's almost like government worship. Anything the Liberals say, the media just praises. Meanwhile, Conservatives are raked through the coals. And lately, there's more and more talk about Ottawa offering money to failing mainstream media companies as some sort of bailout package. How is that not modern bribery? So this was me about a year ago. I did weather and weekend morning show co-hosting at two Toronto TV news organizations owned by the same corporation. I'm sure most people wrote me off, fair enough, as the ditzy weather chick.
It's 68 degrees and there's a 30% chance that it's already raining.
But the truth is, I came in with serious journalism credentials. I have a 4-year degree in communications from the University of Toronto, and I followed that up with a 2-year college program in journalism. Before I arrived on TV in Toronto, I worked for a talk radio station as a producer, and I won a TV reporting award during a stint in Sudbury, Ontario, where I also did TV weather, reporting, and anchoring. When I got to Toronto, I was well aware of the culture and expectations of corporately owned media. They don't like picking fights or taking sides against the government on political issues, and they love identity politics. Most communication companies that own news media tend to play it safe. I get it. Their real aim is to sell cable packages or cell phone plans or whatever. So why risk upsetting anyone, right? In my experience, newsrooms are generally run by upper middle class people with good educations, usually liberal arts. There are very few blue-collar type journalists anymore. In fact, many young journalists come from relatively wealthy families. My point is, they're almost all liberal, and that's the view they have, so that's the view you're gonna get. I knew this, so I kept most of my conservative views undercover. I'll put it this way, if I applied for the job in Toronto and even gave a hint that I held any conservative values, it wouldn't have worked out. I accepted all of this and didn't really care because it was my dream to be on TV in Toronto. But that all changed when I saw the MSM coverage of the 2016 US presidential election. Watching trusted organizations like CNN and MSNBC whip up totally bogus attacks against Trump and seeing Canadian media repeat it without ever questioning the content was too much for me to take. Most Canadians were shocked Trump won, and that's because we don't really have conservative media or even moderately balanced media. They'd only tell you about the polls that had Hillary Clinton out front, ignoring the countless poll results that had Trump leading. They said things like, Trump hates Mexican immigrants, and didn't even bother making the distinction between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. But the media knowingly ignored that and just labeled Trump a racist and a bigot. When I talk about these gaping holes in our reporting, co-workers would look at me like I was speaking in tongues. They blindly trust organizations like CNN and the New York Times.
We couldn't help her any more than we have.
I know.
I mean, she's got just a free ride so far from the media. We're the biggest ones promoting her campaigns.
They'd say, bias? Are you crazy? The election marked the death of the mainstream media, so I decided to leave. Starting this channel was my version of screaming into a pillow. I told myself I'd rather be broke and say something meaningful than make a modest living and be stifled and willfully misleading people. So here I am. As far as being red-pilled, well, that kind of happened years ago. After starting a career, I realized I would never make enough money to retire working in the arts. I started investing in real estate. I read many of Donald Trump's, coincidentally, his books, and Robert Kiyosaki's books, also Napoleon Hill, and I learned about money and taxes. Nothing wakes you up more than having to pay taxes and wondering where your money is going and seeing it wasted and the insane debt racking up. I think when you see the world through the eyes of money, things become a lot clearer. It's likely why the government focuses on social justice in schools and not teaching kids about fiscal responsibility, taxes, and the economy. I think there are two types of people in the world: those who trust the government explicitly and those who do not. I fall into the latter category, which is why I have a more cynical view of their motivations and decisions. I feel that the Canadian government's main goal is to tax you as much as possible, infinitely expand via social programs, all the while becoming more and more controlling and powerful. They want you to be a debt slave and becoming increasingly more dependent on them. I have a lot more to say on this topic, but that's enough for today. Sorry if this bored you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave me a message below and I will get back to you.